Living with the Ocean by Rain Forbes. As most would say it, I live on the ocean. Halifax, Nova Scotia, or Chipuktuk, meaning Great Harbor, is located on a peninsula, surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean. However, I believe it is more appropriate to say I live with the ocean, that we are two entities complexly interconnected. You don't need to be a local to know that Nova Scotians like to fish. Lobster, shrimp, scallops, and crab are a major source of our economy. In 2016, Canada exported $6.6 million in fish and seafood, with 80% of that coming from Atlantic fisheries. My own uncle is even a lobster fisherman on the South Shore. Given the cruciality to sustain the industry, it is important to found our practices on ecological and Indigenous knowledge. So let's dive in. With no limiting factors such as resource availability, predation, or environmental disturbance, a small population will grow exponentially. However, there are obviously aspects of the environment that will limit how many of a species are able to live in a given space. For example, resources are finite. There is only so much food to go around. Thus, the growth of the population will begin to follow the logistic model. That as population size increases, the rate at which population grows will slow until it reaches the carrying capacity, the max population of a species that a particular ecosystem can sustain. The carrying capacity is the point at which the per capita birth and death rates are equivalent. Thus, during a busy fishing season, the death rate will be higher than the birth rate, shifting the carrying capacity towards a fewer number of individuals. With deaths greater than births, the population continues to shrink. Maximum sustainable yield is a fishery model to describe the maximum number of catch that can occur without decreasing the population growth rate. Going back to our logistic equation, this will occur if half the population is harvested, i.e., in a given fishing season, half the fish population would be able to be harvested and population growth rates would still remain the highest. However, this is not always the case. Over the last 50 years, 366 of the world's only 1,500 fisheries have collapsed. So why might this be, from an ecological perspective? Predator and prey dynamics describes that prey numbers only depend, in theory, on the number of predators there are. This model assumes that predators hold the prey population below their carrying capacity. The more people that are out catching fish, the less fish there are. Birth rates are less than death rates, and population shrinks. So now what? We reduce the population size? A smaller population has various vulnerabilities. It is subject to demographic stochasticity that by random chance variations in birth and death rate can lead the population to extinction. There are a few ironies I would like to mention regarding our interaction with the ocean. Firstly, we pollute the waters with sewage and wastewater, oil, plastic, despite our dependence on the ecosystem for food and our economy. We fish more fish than we can sustain. And I believe this ideology perpetuating these practices is that we believe we are independent from the ocean, that our behaviors are isolated from the natural world. What I believe I have learned most from this course is how interconnected everything is. I think we can ground us in Indigenous knowledge and practices. Here is an excerpt from Lugier and Collins in 2022. Indigenous peoples everywhere share a love and respect for the land. We have never lost this sacred connection. We have never forgotten how Mother Earth provides, because we understand how much we rely on her. We respect her accordingly. Many view the land as a resource to be used, exploited, owned, and occupied. Indigenous people know that the land is a living entity, to have a relationship of respect and reciprocity with. She is life giver, guardian, the root of all creation, the heart of the universe, and the essence of our being. When she suffers, so do we. The health of the land is a direct reflection of the health of the people. This passage pays a beautiful homage to the earth, acknowledging how much we depend on, and thus the respect that should be devoted. Indigenous peoples value that the land is a living being and the relationships we have. In moving forward, education, both from furthering our ecological knowledge to listening and learning Indigenous practices, we can start to see the heartbeat of the earth, that our actions directly affect the land, that we are not isolated, that ecosystems are dynamic, with species going extinct while others newly